Hello, the following video is intended to help you in understanding how standards-based grading is used in this course. In your syllabus, you will see a list of course objectives or learning outcomes which are defined as standards. In this course, there are 6 standards labeled here. Each standard is worth a different percentage towards your final grade. You can see here in the syllabus that 3 of the standards are worth 20%, 2 are worth 15%, and 1 is worth 10%. So what we're doing here is showing that some skills that we hope you develop are going to be weighted more towards your final grade than others. It's also good to note that the scores are weighted across the 3 projects. So you can see in this course that we have 3 projects, 2 mini projects, each worth 25%, and 1 final project worth 50%. This allows you to receive lower scores early on in the course without it negatively impacting your overall grade as it would if you were to get a lower score for the final project. The scores in this course are scored on a scale from 0 to 4, and you can see the scale here helps you identify that if you were to get a 2 out of 4, this does not mean that you just got a 50% on a traditional scoring scale, which would be failing. A 2 out of 4 in this course is equivalent to a B-. So keep that in mind when calculating your grade over the course. Let's use Excel to now help us demonstrate how your grade will be calculated. I have here a sample, and these are just sample assignments. They don't necessarily relate to the assignments that are being offered this semester. But we see that there are a series of assignments for each of the 2 mini projects and final project. Some assignments will be scored on more than one standard. You can see this example here, and the final website is assessing 5 of the learning outcomes or standards, while the initial website was only assessing 1 standard. For each project, what you'll want to do is average those scores within each learning outcome or standard. You can see I've done that here, where we have just a simple sum of all the scores. To determine what your standard score for a given project is, you simply just take the average. The only standard that is calculated slightly differently is teamwork. And teamwork is just going to be averaged over the course of the entire semester with no weighting being applied to the team working score. So for each project, you can determine what your average score for each standard is. You can see I've done that for each one of our 3 projects. Now, if you recall from the syllabus, we have a number of weighting scales. Let's go back to our syllabus very quickly. And remember that for each project, the first 2 projects, the mini projects, are only worth 25% of your grade, while the final project is worth 50%. So if we go back to our Excel, we'll see that what we've done here is to determine what my overall course outcome score for each standard, I've taken my average scores, you can see them highlighted here in blue, green, and purple, and multiplied them by the weighting percentage. So for my first project, the product archaeology, it's worth 25%, so I've multiplied it by 0.25, the average score. I've done the same thing for LEGO Robotics, and for the final project, I've multiplied my average score by 0.5. If you do that for each one of your scores, except for teamwork, which is just a simple average across all scores, you'll see that I now know what my scores are for each one of my standards for the course. And we can see that this particular sample student did very well in design build, not as well in modeling and research testing and evaluating, and so on and so forth. Okay, so here a student can now look at this and understand in which areas they may need to improve as they move on to their next course. Now, how do I determine what my final score is? If you recall, if we go back to our syllabus again, that each one of the learning outcomes is also weighted. Okay, so what I now need to do is factor that into my calculation. And what I've done is taken my scores for each one of my learning outcomes and multiplied it by that individual weighting. You can see for design build, I've multiplied it by 0.2 because it's worth 20%. Same thing for modeling, and so on and so forth down the line. This helps me determine what my final score is. In this particular case, a 2.65. Now, how do we determine what our final score is? Again, we want to go back to our syllabus, look at our scale here, and we see that a 2.65 falls within the range of 2.34 to 2.66. This means that my resulting grade for this course is a B. I hope this helps you as you determine your grade over the course of the semester.